as I was watching that and relating to all those words that I still feel to this day, as we begin, a lot of you have asked, when are we going to do the steps? When are we going to do the steps? When are we going to do the steps? Well, we're doing the steps. So I think it's important too to I want to really correlate the biblical side, the big book side, to the 12 and 12 side, to the works how and why, to the NA basic text. I've read them all front to cover many times, and covered it front to back many times, and in bits and pieces as my sponsors over the years have suggested me to do so. But as I was watching that video, I thought to myself, when we're out there doing our thing and it's fun, right? We're doing it because it's fun. But when it crosses the line of not being fun and now it's a necessity, it's like it's as necessary as oxygen. As an opiate addict, my opiates were as necessary as breathing. For you gambling addicts, going to the casino was constantly on your mind and whatever it is. So as we go through these 12 steps, another thing God really checked me on lately, because I've really enjoyed, teaching on Sunday morning, teaching on Sunday night, and then bringing that message into our Tuesday night recovery meeting where I can put the recovery spin on it without compromising the principle of the word. So as I was thinking, I'm like, well, I don't really want to do the steps. I don't really need to do the steps. I've done the steps 100 times. I'm free indeed. But God checked me. He says, you know what? Don't think you're somewhere where you're not. Don't think that AA isn't right when it says it's a daily reprieve contingent on your spiritual condition. Because my spiritual condition can be good one day and bad the next. So God checked me, and he really reduced my pride back into humility, where if I think I got it, I just missed it. And quite frankly, if I do have it, I should be giving it away, what is so freely given to me. My recovery is here because I work for it, but it's also here because of God, number one, and also because people had enough service in them to help a guy like me. When everybody else wrote me off, do you think I'm standing here just here? I love you. That's my ADD, I'm sorry. But, the thing is that there was a time that fun wore off and I still got high. There was a time that my kids were born, who are now 17, 18, and 22. There was a time when they were born, I'm like, okay, now I know I'm not going to run like I used to because I got a purpose to live. But yet I ran anyway. There was a time that I was in the business world, and, I said, okay, now I got the white picket fence and got all my ducks in a row. I'm living in Plymouth, and everybody looks and thinks I'm doing so good, but I knew I wasn't doing very good inside of myself. There was a time that I thought that would be sufficient for me not to pick up dope, but I picked up dope anyways. See, there was a time that my daughter had surgery when she was born. She had something wrong with her kidney. And my wife at the time, I got in trouble last week when I said my current wife, which implied that she wouldn't be my wife for the rest of my life. But you never really know with a guy like me. But the thing is, and that's what it is. I mean, I know that I'm capable of leaving her at any minute. I know that I can still make the choice to get high in my flesh. And if you don't think that that's still in you, I think you're dead wrong. I think if you were really honest with yourself and other people, what you're really thinking about, what really crosses your mind at a given moment, and you were transparent and authentic and vulnerable to share what's really going on inside of you, that's the ticket to freedom. Now, I know I'm a new creation. The old is gone and the new has come. I know that the Son, who the Son sets free, is free indeed. I know the Word. I teach the Word. But you don't think you think the devil's happy about what I'm doing? You think he's happy that God put this vision on my heart 12 years ago, and here we all sit? You think he's happy that we now have a church? We own this building? You think he's happy about a bunch of junkies making a difference in this city, in this country, and in this world? He is not happy. They used to tell me in my AA, NA, CA meetings that the addict's out in the parking lot doing push-ups. Let me be very clear with you. The addict is sitting right next to you. He ain't going to let himself be that far away from you that he's out waiting in the parking lot, just in case you're thinking about something that you shouldn't while you're here. He's making sure he's sitting right here with you. And if you don't come to find, you know what that really means? It says stay alert. Be of sober mind, the Bible says, because the enemy, the great enemy, it says, the devil prowls around like a roaring lion looking for somebody to devour. Now, I'm getting off topic here, but I mean, if you really look at your relapse, prowling around, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it comes. And we all know it doesn't happen instantaneously. There's stuff that leads up to it. And then you're in the dope house, you're in the bar, or you're in the casino with that dumb look on your face wondering how you got there. When you know full well how you got there. You hear me say it all the time. They told me, well, call your sponsor when you're on the way to the dope house. If I'm on the way to the dope house, I am locked and loaded. I need to call my sponsor when I start thinking about dope. Not when I got the key in the ignition and the pedal on the metal. You think of something, I mean, remember those days when, where's my phone, Mike? You know, this is how I used to live my life, and maybe some of you still live it this way. Bzzz, look at it, ignore. Remember when your kids used to call you, and you were too high to pick up? Remember when the bank called you, and you wrote that bag check, you just looked at that phone like, I'll deal with it tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. My mom, who's here tonight, used to call me, and back in the day when they didn't have earpieces, when I was running the streets, and she just kept calling and calling and calling, and I got doing dope deals all over. And one time I picked up accidentally, and she was so excited that she finally got a hold of me. At the same time, my dad had hired a private detective to find me, and you know the story if you don't, that they came to this hotel room that I was living at, and the only thing they sold at the front desk was lighters. My dad broke down in tears saying, "This is what my son has reduced to." See, I got to know that I'm powerless. They say in AA that the first step is the only one you're going to be able to work perfectly. So tonight, as we're talking about the unmanageability, Lord, I thank you for another day above ground and out of prison. Lord, I thank you for the freedom. Lord, I thank you for choice. Lord, I thank you for the provision. Lord, I thank you for, I thank you for my addiction. Because without it, I would have never have sought you. I thank you for my addiction. I thank you for birthing me to be an extremely dependent person. And please, as I've asked you 1,000 times and I've experienced the forgiveness, forgive me for being dependent on the wrong things. And forgive me in my previous programs when I half-measured everything. When I thought that what I was willing to do was willingness. Lord, I thank you for taking over me, speak through my vocal cords this evening, change at least one person, and I hope it's me. Have your way this evening. Amen. So it says, we admitted we were powerless. It doesn't say, I admitted that I was powerless. It says, we. Chances are somebody had to help you get there. Because when you're in it, you don't see it. Everybody else knew you had a problem, but you. And quite frankly, in your gut, you knew you did. But it says we. See, the we of the program, it's nothing to do with just you. It has to do with we. Where did AA get the word we? Well, they got it from the body of Christ. The we of AA is the body of Christ of the Bible. God puts people in your life to help you. And once they help you, your purpose is to help somebody else. So we admitted. Now, I can sit and tell you, you got a drug problem, you got a gambling problem, your kids left you, you're homeless like I was, and all these things. But unless you admit that, unless you're willing to take a strong look at that, we admitted we were powerless over our dependencies, whatever they are for you. We got a lot of codependent people in here today. And those of us who are addicts, don't think you're not codependent. You're totally codependent. Over our dependencies in our lives have become unmanageable. You hear me say it all the time. I go on 12-step calls all the time. Well, I can't go to treatment because I got to go to work. I'm like, when's the last time you've been to work? 2 weeks ago? I love it when I lived in Las Vegas, and again, my wife at the time called me and says, well, how's it going? You know, and I'm like, well, it's good. Things are going good at the company, yeah. I said, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm just out on a sales call. Well, okay. And she goes, you're out on a sales call? No, I just got back to the company, I said. She goes, really? Your boss just called. He hasn't seen you for 3 weeks and you're fired. And I still came up with a story to counter that fact. Think about the work that we put into our unmanageability. So for those of you who have been doing this for a while, I want you, God had put it on my heart to share with you, that I want you to pick one thing. If you've come to the conclusion that you're powerless over your addiction and you've gotten freedom, like Sarah, a year, I want you to pick, over these next 12 weeks, I want you to just pick one thing. See, I get criticized whatever I do. They criticize me for not talking about the steps, but then when I do the steps, they tell me I'm going through it too fast. But then I ask them, whoever them are, I say, well, if I was to take 3 weeks per each step, would you take full advantage of those 3 weeks? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. So I want you to pick one thing that you're powerless over. I am not just powerless over drugs and alcohol. I'm powerless over people, places, and things. I'm powerless over you. I'm powerless over what you think of me or this place or whatever. So, I mean, and if I let that get to me, it's going to make my life extremely unmanageable. You hear me say it all the time. It's none of your business what other people think about you. If people are talking behind your back, they're behind you for a reason. Maybe you should be concerned if somebody that is above you is talking. Maybe you should listen. But, you know, and so pick one thing. It could be an ex. It could be the courts. It could be a feeling. I'm powerless over my anxiety. We all should know. But if you have not come to the conclusion that you're powerless over your addiction, this will not work. And your lives had become unmanageable. So now, let's take anxiety for a second, okay? I'm powerless over my anxiety. I used to have to blow into a paper bag, go to the ER in my recovery thinking I was having a heart attack. Ask my mom. She tried to convince me, you're fine, Jeff, you're fine. I'm like, no, I'm having a heart attack. I go to the ER, blowing in the bag, and they tell me, they do my pulse, they check my EKG, and they say, you're fine, and then I was fine. Why is it that I got to wait until everybody else tells me I'm fine? Why can't I just realize that God tells me I'm fine? Now, I don't know, sometimes fine isn't good. What does it stand for again? Who's got that? I know it's a swear word, so we won't say that. So I'm fine. Screwed up, well, we replace the F word. Insecure, neurotic, and what?
Emotional.
I'm fine. So where are you? Some of you got your sons and daughters here tonight, and you were powerless over their addiction, and it made your lives extremely unmanageable. Codependent people. So pick one thing. Now, AA, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions says, but upon entering AA, we soon take quite another view of an absolute humiliation. Now, we know that what the Bible says, that those who humble themselves will be exalted. Those who exalt themselves will be humbled. And if God has to humble you, there will be humiliation tied to it. Remember the different forms of humiliation that our addiction took us to. It says, we perceive that not only through our utter defeat. Now, if you don't think you were in utter defeat, most likely you'll use again. In utter defeat, you are able to take the first steps towards liberation and strength. Now, how could admitting defeat lead to liberation and strength? Didn't you just admit you're weak by admitting you're powerless? So how can it all of a sudden equate to strength? So if you're weak, who are you relying on in your strength? And I'll get to that over the next several weeks. But it says, our admissions of personal powerlessness finally turn out to be a firm bedrock upon which happy and purposeful lives may be built. Today, I know if I take the wrong turn out of this parking lot, I could get high. My addiction is the bedrock of this church. If I never would have been a crack addict, there would have never been a church. If I would have never been a crack addict, my 18-year-old would have never went to Haiti with you 2 weeks ago. Because I wouldn't have been in church. My addiction is the bedrock, my foundation in my spirituality. We know that little good can come to any alcoholic who joins AA unless he has first accepted devastating weakness. So how devastating is your addiction? Is it as devastating as it was on day one of recovery? Are you now saying it wasn't that bad? Because if you're not working a program, you're saying that your addiction wasn't that bad. Now check out what it says here now. And all its consequences. You can choose to do whatever you want, but you can't choose the consequence of that choice. Did I see losing my family, losing my business, losing my house, losing my freedom as a consequence when I picked up drugs? No, I did not. Recently dealt with a husband of affluent family in St. Michael that has got it all together, picked up methamphetamines and lost everything, just got charged with arms and dope, and people were trying to kill him. How can you go from living on a house on the hill to in handcuffs with an arms charge and a dope charge? Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you leave the good to go to the bad? Why is it that they teach us one is too many and 1,000 is never enough? So don't be ashamed or whatever. Your consequences are a motivator. It says, we had approached AA expecting to be taught self-confidence. Check this out. It's critical information here. Then we had been told, so far as alcohol concerned, self-confidence was no good whatever. In fact, it is a total liability. Your pride is a liability. When you think that you can do this on your own, that's a liability. See, the Bible says that you can do all things through Christ that gives you strength. If you think you got this, you just missed this. If you think that you don't have to go to meetings for the rest of your life, you will get drunk. That's why they tell us it's a one-day-at-a-time program. So it's very, very important for all of us to understand the fact is this, that it isn't about self-confidence. It's nothing to do with it. It says, our sponsors declared that we were victims of a mental obsession so subtly powerful that no amount of human willpower could break it. How many times did you get high when you told yourself you weren't? How many times did you go to the casino when you said you were done? How many times did you say you wouldn't drive drunk after all the DWIs and you drove drunk? A mental obsession. A mental obsession that would take a guy like me with 2 newborns and sitting on the floor playing toys and games with my children, and it would take me the mental obsession. I was physically there, but I was emotionally and mentally out on the streets, and my emotions and my mentality took me to the streets. And then once I got to the dope house and got locked and loaded in the house, I wished I was back on the living room with my children, but I couldn't get there because I was powerless. And that very powerlessness brought great unmanageability. We cannot depend on our own resources. It says it was the statistical fact that alcoholics almost will never recover on their own resources. How many of you have tried to get sober and stay sober by yourself? How many of you worked out good for you? So those of you who are doing it right now as I talk, you're relying on yourself to stay sober. How can you not see that it doesn't work? Look at all the witnesses here. But yet, we still think we can do it. And that's what I would suggest to you, that you have not worked the first step. You're dealing with self-confidence, which it says is a great liability. Why all the insistence that every AA must hit bottom first? Losing everything is the best thing that ever happened to you. Don't murmur and complain that you lost everything. Because if you had anything yet to hold on to, you'd still be getting high. Or that last thing you were holding on to would be in the pawn shop or wherever it may be. And you'd use it to get high. Losing everything is the best thing that ever happened to me. You don't know how much you need God until God is all you got. And God is all I had. So that's the whole premise of the first step. So I had to hit bottom first. So if you haven't, I'm not going to suggest you go out there to hit bottom. But what the bottom line is this: you may not think you hit bottom, but if I was to ask your family members, they would say you probably have. You will never get a straight answer out of an addict out of the gate that doesn't have humility. Those who are relying on self-confidence will never give you a straight answer. The answer is few people will sincerely try to practice the AA program unless they have hit bottom. Now, I asked you the question when it comes to step one. How sincere are you about your program? Are you sitting here tonight thinking that you know what you need to do? You, I. I've got, my life is blessed, and I still don't have a clue. I need counsel and sponsorship and pastoralship more than ever. It says, who wishes to be rigorously honest and tolerant? Now, we didn't get here because we were rigorously honest or tolerant. We were irritable and dishonest. And if you can't face that about yourselves, you probably haven't worked a first step. It says here, who wants to confess his faults to one another? Who wants to share your dirty laundry? Why is it that we always tell 8 out of 10 things that really happen? It says that we need to, and then we think we have the audacity that if I tell you what really happened or how I'm really feeling, it would freak you out. Like I haven't done the same thing? Like your story's so unique? I mean, you're never going to surprise an addict like, ooh. Either somebody will chalk it up as a good idea and go do it themselves, or they'll just say, yeah, I did it too. So you're always going to get a reaction out of it. So what it's saying here is so true that, none of us wish to be honest and tolerant. Who wants to confess their faults to one another and make restitution for their harm? No, we want everybody just to forgive us immediately, erase our debt, so we can move on with our lives. I'm still paying consequences from all these years ago. Those very consequences keep me accountable. They keep me accountable. Who cares anything about a higher power, let alone meditation and prayer? The only time we meditated in prayer is when we were in the backseat of the cop car. We were some of the greatest prayer warriors in the world, those foxhole prayers. Oh, God, please, I pray, get me out of here. I'll do a program. I'll get a sponsor. Praise God, hallelujah. If the judge says, okay, I'll give you a chance, then you're off in self-confidence again. You got to stay low. You got to stay humble. You got to understand, as Sarah said, that without God, it's going to be difficult. And you don't believe in God, then use good, orderly direction, just not your own. Because eventually you will find God. Because the reason why you don't like God, you don't know God. Now, these people that are all mad at Jesus, there's no possible way you can be mad at Jesus. If you really know who he is, you would not be mad at him. Quite frankly, he's the reason why you're here. Even if you don't believe in him, you did not get what was coming to you. You don't look like what you've been through. Did you get caught? I mean, I don't care how many consequences you got here tonight. You still did not get hit for everything you did. So quit murmuring and complaining and celebrate that God had his hand on you. And it says, who wants to sacrifice time and energy on carrying AA's message for the next sufferer? No, the majority of people come here and they get what they want and what they think they need. Well, hear what I'm saying. What they think they need. What they think they need is not what they need. I'm not going to go help anybody. I'm here to help myself. And who wants to give up time and who wants to be Doug? Does it for free. But yet criticize him. Has your recovery got as much time than your addiction did? Has God got from you what the dope man got from you? Does God know you like the bartender does? Does God know you like dealer in pit 7 did? Does God know you like that slot machine did? Well, you knew that curve, that sound. That means I'm lucky. Well, they don't even do that anymore, but whatever. See, how familiar are you with your powerlessness? We need to learn to be rigorously honest. It says, not the average alcoholic, self-centered to the extreme, who doesn't care for the prospect unless he has to do in order to save himself. That's the first step. Do you believe that this is life and death? Are you just here to get what you think you need and go on with your life? God didn't save you just to be a good mother and get your job back. You had that. It didn't work. It wasn't enough for you. If it was, you wouldn't have ran again. God saved you to help save other people. And you can't save them. It's God through you that can participate in that process. So I know that I need to do this. I don't got to do this. I get to do this. Quit thinking that you got to go to meetings and start realizing that you get to go to meetings. Because if you got to go to meetings, it's not going to last. If you frame your perspective in a way that I get to go, because there was a time that I couldn't go. I talked to Angela in federal prison today. She can't be here. But yet, I can't deal with all these meetings. It's too much. Boy, a dope man called, hey, you want some? No, I think I'm going to stay home tonight. Quite frankly, the dope man didn't have to call you. I had dope men cut me off. I mean, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. What dope man in their right mind would cut off a junkie? That means you're extremely sick. So I mean, what's your motivation? I mean, the motivation that this is life and death. And it says, no, not everybody's going to adhere to these things. We're self-centered to the extreme. Don't care, but I need to do this I get to do this to stay alive myself. We stand ready to do anything. So many of us are not willing to do anything to recover. That's the whole first step. If you've lost your willingness to do anything, see, that's how I know how sick you were in the streets, because I would do anything to get one more. But when we get sober, I don't think I can do that, but I'm willing to do this. That's not willingness. How many of you said, give me a dime bag, but I'm not willing to bounce a check to get some more, but you bounce the check anyway? See, it's the same mindset channeled in a God direction. It says, NA, basic text, no one could convince us that we were addicts. You have to realize it and accept it and admit it yourself. We did not, how many have been to over 5-10 treatments? Didn't you get sick of those chemical dependent questionnaires to figure out if you're chemically dependent? You know how many drug histories I've done? Like you expect me to remember. I did this, well, I'll reduce that to a lie. It's like they were trying to prove to us that we're addicts. Why is it that somebody has to prove to us that we are when we know in our heart of hearts that we are? It says, no one could convince us that we were addicts. We didn't stumble into this fellowship brimming with love, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. No, those are things we had to learn. We reached a point where we could no longer continue because of the physical. I remember I was so sick and so junk. I was like 120 pounds. I couldn't even walk up the stairs. I couldn't eat. The food would get caught in my throat. I couldn't get the glass to my lips. I had 2 hands and that didn't work. I needed my friend. I couldn't get the rig in my arm. They couldn't find the vein anymore because they were all shot. yet I did it anyway. Yet I found a way to get it. Yet I found a way to drink it. Yes, yet I found a little more money to go to the casino. When I said it was done, and the next day it was on. What's it going to take for you to admit it? The admittance of it is the freedom. It says right here, we reached a point where we could no longer continue because of the physical, the mental, the spiritual pain. I don't like that, man. This ain't fun anymore, but I still gotta get high. I see my kids and they don't recognize me, and I just took the money and I was reduced to taking the change in the car, and they didn't see me for 3 weeks till I was in the hotel room, and I came back and it was painful that they had to see me reduced down to nothing, but I had to continue to use because I was powerless and my whole life was unmanageable, and it didn't matter what you told me, I had to admit it myself. There ain't no test. I go to Hazelden a couple times. They get, what are those tests called? Personality test or something? What is it? MPI? I don't even know what that stands for, but I lied on that too. I used to pay therapists from Hazelden $150 an hour to lie to them. Boy, and I'm like, you're a fool. Who's the fool? They're taking my check. And no disrespect, I love therapists. That's why I'm where I am today. I love therapy. I need it. So get it if you need it. Get what you need. And it says, we reach a point we couldn't continue. It's so important to understand. It says, when we were beaten, we became willing. How many have been beaten by drugs or alcohol or gambling? Beat to a pulp. Many of us tried to stop using, and it says that right there. I mean, it's so important. We saw that willpower alone would not work, but check this out. Until we let go of our reservations, maybe someday I can drink again. Let me talk to you real quickly about another reservation that you may have right now. Maybe someday I don't have to go out on these meetings. Maybe someday I won't have to hit 4 a week. That's a reservation to use. And you don't even know it. I go to more meetings. I have more accountability today than I've ever had. And I love it. I love it. And what it's saying here is no matter what they are, so it doesn't have to be just a reservation to get high, the foundation of a recovery is in danger. Reservations rob us from the benefits of the program. So if you're sitting here tonight as a resident of Serenity Village and you're saying to yourself, when you get out of here, and I don't even know why you're here to begin with, but when you get out of here, you're no way are you going to all these meetings. You're being robbed from even being here. Because you can't wait to get out of here. And if you can never enjoy where you are, and you always want to be somewhere else than where you are, you lose the ability to experience the gift, which is your present. I have ADD to the extreme, but I honestly can sit today because of God and listen to you and care about you. It's genuine. And it says, in ridding ourselves of all reservations, we surrender. Then and only then can we help to recover from the disease of addiction. We have found that we have no choice except to completely change our old ways. Completely change our old ways of thinking or go back to using. When we give it our best, it works for us as it has worked for others. When we could no longer stand our old ways, quit saying you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and start saying, I'm sick of me. I'm sick of me. And if I'm sick of me, you're probably sick of me. I was sick of myself. I made myself sick. I wasn't just sick and tired of being sick. I left my kids and I went away and I disappeared because of cocaine. And that made me sick. But that sickness kept me sick. Get sick of yourself. then you might change. Sick of your thinking, sick of your behavior, sick of your lies, sick of your dishonesty, sick of your manipulation, sick of your preoccupation. Then you'll do something about it. Then you'll admit you're powerless. Then you can see your unmanageability. Then you will rely on the we of this program to save your life. Whatever is necessary. I don't see a lot of you doing whatever is necessary. You still need to be motivated to recover. It says, even the things we don't like doing. I didn't like to be honest. I didn't like to be vulnerable. I love it when I came back from they used to fly me around the country to set up companies, and then I'd disappear, and they'd hire me back because they got results from me. But they said that one of the employees at the time of this large corporation came up to me and said, "Oh, I heard you were in Las Vegas. You disappeared for 3 days, and you were caught with this person and that person, and you did this with some of the company's money." I looked at the guy and said, "It's all true." When are you going to say it's all true? When are you going to own it so it doesn't own you? When are you going to deal with it so it doesn't continue to deal with you? Yeah, you are a crook. You are a liar. You are lazy. If you admit you are, it'll go to I was. I was a liar. I was lazy. I was a thief. I was a bad father. But before you get to I was, you have to admit I am. And when you admit that I am, the great I am steps in. And you don't have to be who you were or who you're going to be anymore. You can just be who you are. As down and dirty and twisted and stanky as you may be, at least you know who you are. It's about ready to just get really real. And I'm just going to encourage you to read the rest of the NA book here in the basic text, because it's right on the money. And it says some of us have lost everything: our homes, our families, our jobs, and our self-respect. I lost all of that. But it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. But even when I was losing it, I didn't stop getting high. Whatever our individual circumstances, our lives are governed by obsessive, compulsive, self-seeking behavior. Some of us have that in our recovery even still to this day. If that's you, just don't quit. Sarah will be a great example. You know, we all struggle. When trouble comes, I just choose not to go with it. I'm not going to murmur and complain about my circumstances. I tell my circumstances about my God. If I bow down to God, I don't have to bow down to my circumstances. Either way, you're going to bow down to something. Admitting you're powerless and admitting the unmanageability is where you get the power, and you learn how to be manageable through the power. We'll get to those in the future steps. Many of us recall the moment of clarity when we came face to face with our disease. Your disease makes you dis-ease. Are you at dis-ease? Or are you at ease tonight? Because if you're at dis-ease, you're going to fall into your disease. You hear me say it all the time. They want me to go on radio shows. Is addiction a disease or a sin, Pastor Jeff? I don't care. I know if I pick up one, I break out in handcuffs. I know I'm allergic to it. And if you had cancer tonight, you would get treatment. So you have this affliction. And what I'm saying, the moment of clarity, who and what we were became more clear. We no longer avoid the truth. We found that we cannot recover without the ability to be honest. Through our developing relationship with our sponsor, we learned the principle of trust. The process of recovery isn't easy. It takes great courage and perseverance to continue in your recovery day after day. Part of the recovery process is to move forward in spite of whatever may stand in your way. What is typically standing in your way is you. Not your circumstances, not your consequences. The feeling of love and acceptance we find in the fellowship, the symptoms of our disease can always return. How many have been sober for over 5 years and then relapsed? Don't think you're out of the woods. Don't think that you will not have to do this. You get to do this. And if you choose not to do this, you wish you would have done this. I talk to inmates all the time that wish they were here. It says there is a deeply spiritual nature to our program of recovery. It's spiritual. This is NA now talking about spiritual. To get started on this journey, we must become willing to surrender to the program and its principles. Yes, you need to express how you're feeling, but still you have to live by principle. For our future hinges on our willingness to grow spiritually. Romans 7, first verse I've ever read in the Bible 12 years ago. It changed my life because I could relate to it. It says, and I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my sinful nature. There's a side of you that nothing good lives in it. I don't care if you've been sober 20 years, you're washed in the blood, and you walk in the faith of Jesus Christ like I do. There is a side of you that is stanky. That is twisted and demented and manipulative. And if you don't pay attention to that side, trust me, that side is paying attention to you. I want to do what is right, but I can't. I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but I do it anyway. But if I do what I don't want to do, it's not me really doing the wrong. It is the sin living in me. It's in you. It ain't going to leave you. And that thing that's in me makes me work a program because I'm scared of myself. I'm sick of myself. It says in Psalm 31, the result of addiction, have mercy on me, God, for I am in distress. Psalm 72, 13, 12, you have been rescued. Recognize that you've been rescued, but you've been rescued to rescue. God rescued you for you to rescue people. Matthew 9, 36, it's time to get to work. He says, when he saw the crowds, Jesus said, he had compassion. When he saw you in the casino, he had compassion. When he saw you in the dope house, he had compassion. When he saw his kids without parents, he had compassion. When he saw you come to the end of yourself, he had compassion. When he saw you at the end of your rope ready to kill yourself, he had compassion. When he saw you fail upon fail, upon failure, upon failure, taking your mess, God wants to turn your mess into a message. He saw you with compassion. He did not judge you. He gave you a place like this to recover. Do you admit that you're powerless? I know you're powerless. I know I'm powerless. I know without God, I'm totally unmanageable. God is who he says he is. He is not the great I was or I'm going to be. I serve the great I am. I live one day at a time. I know that I got a bust a move in me the size of Texas. And at any given moment, I could be gone, and you could show up on Sunday and sit there, and church may never start, and everybody's like, where's Pastor Jeff? Well, that may make you want to maybe not come to this church if it's that unstable. Trust me, the fact that I know I'm unstable makes me extremely stable. Have you had enough of you? They were confused and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. He said to his disciples, the harvest is great. The 9th-step promises come true. But the workers are few. Few of us will make this. Will you be one of them? And the choice is yours. If you do not have a sponsor, I want you to ask somebody in your group as the leaders in your group, and they will assign one to you. These next 12 weeks, you have an opportunity beyond a lifetime. But if you don't think you need this, if you're beyond the steps, let me be very clear with you, pride goes before destruction. God bless you.